welcome everyone. Welcome to our webinar today, Cooking with Chef Kris. My name is Megan Dowling and I am the program coordinator with the Kidney Foundation of Canada, our Atlantic branch. So I'm also a volunteer registered dietitian with the Kidney Community Kitchen. Today we have Chef Kris with us. I'll be introducing him later on. We also have Rosanna Mitchell with us as well. She's also staff with the Atlantic branch here with the Kidney Foundation. She will be keeping track of some of our comments in the chat and responding to any quick questions she can and adding some links in there. So you'll see her name pop up. You might have seen my name already in there, but keep a lookout for the chat box. So welcome again. I'm very excited to be here with all of you today and very pleased to be partnering with our very own Chef Kris, who will be showing you how to prepare a renal friendly brunch. Just before we get started, I want to go over a few items so that you know how to participate in today's event. So by default, you have all entered the webinar with your audio muted, and we just keep everybody muted to help lower any background noises, which helps to keep our webinar flowing smoothly. Today's webinar is being recorded. You'll receive a follow-up email within the next few days or early next week, and this will have a link to for on-demand viewing and also a link to the recipe that Chef Kris will be preparing today. You'll also get a copy of our PowerPoint slides that we're using today. There's just a few, but you'll have all the links that are included in those slides. Finally, there will be a short survey in that email as well. And so this is an anonymous survey just about how today's webinar went. It's just short, and we ask that you fill this out if you do have time to provide your feedback. Your feedback is very important to us, and it just allows us to improve future webinars and tailor them to what you wish to learn about. So although we are all muted, you will have the opportunity to submit text questions. There are two ways that you can do this. You can either do it through our chat box or our question and answer box. If you submit them through the chat box, your name will appear by the question. But if you do wish to submit your questions anonymously, you can do this through our question and answer box. And when you do that, there should be a little option that you can click off that says anonymous. We'll answer all of our questions at the end of the webinar. We'll have a little question and answer session. So feel free to ask any questions either to Kris or I all throughout the webinar. You can submit them. We'll be monitoring the chat box and we'll make a list of those to answer at the end. There is one more way that you can participate in today's webinar, and that's through polls. So we've prepared a number of questions to ask you throughout the webinar. All you have to do is click on the answer that you think is correct or that best describes you when it pops up on the screen. So all polls are completely anonymous. We're able to see the percentage of the answers for each question, but we can't see any names. So with that said, let's launch our first poll. So you should now all be able to see this poll on your screen there. The question asks which statements, you can choose more than one, so which statements best describe you? The options are: I am a kidney patient, I am on dialysis, I have received a kidney transplant in the past, I am a living kidney donor, I'm a family member of someone with kidney disease, I am a caregiver of someone with kidney disease, and I am not connected to kidney disease. So I can see people are still in the process of answering. We'll just give it a moment or two. And again, all of these are anonymous. Okay, it looks like most people had the chance to answer. So I'll just share those results. We have a great mixture on the call, on the webinar today. some kidney patients, dialysis. We don't have any living kidney donors. We have some family members, caregivers, and a few people who are not connected to kidney disease, which is great because today's recipe, although it is renal friendly, it can apply to anybody. So that's great. Okay. Move on here. So again, before we get started, just a quick disclaimer. The material contained in this webinar does not constitute medical advice, and it's not intended for, it's only intended for informational purposes. No one associated with the Kidney Foundation of Canada will answer medical questions. So always, of course, please consult a healthcare professional for specific treatment recommendations. Okay, so before I introduce you all to Chef Kris, I'm going to talk briefly about the Kidney Community Kitchen and some of its features to offer. We'll then introduce the recipe, and I'll show you exactly where you can find it on the Kidney Community Kitchen website, and we'll provide a link to view the recipe as well. I'll then introduce Chef Kris, and we'll get into the cooking demonstration. After the cooking demonstration, we'll get right into our question and answer session. And again, a reminder, you may answer or ask questions anytime throughout the webinar. We'll be gathering these and we will answer them at the end. So this is a screenshot of the homepage for the Kidney Community Kitchen. So first, we're going to do another poll. So I'll launch that here. I just want to gather some insight on how many of you are aware of the Kidney Community Kitchen. So we have a question here. Do you use the Kidney Community Kitchen website? Some of the answers we have are, I have used it 1 to 5 times. I've used it 6 to 10. I've used it more than 10 times. Another one is, I have heard of the Kidney Community Kitchen, but never visited the website. And finally, I have never heard of the Kidney Community Kitchen. I see some people answering. All you have to do is click the answer that applies to you. And we'll just wait a few more moments for more people to answer. Okay. Let's see the results. Wow, so a lot of people have either not heard of it or haven't visited it. So this is great because we will be going over some of the features that it does have to offer. So maybe you'll think of checking it out. Okay. So, So this is a screenshot of the home page for the Kidney Community Kitchen. So for those of you who have never heard of it, or for those of you who don't know, the Kidney Foundation of Canada launched the Kidney Community Kitchen in November of 2011 to help make the renal diet a little less stressful. So this is free and easy to use. The Kidney Community Kitchen is an online tool that aims to make food and cooking as easy and as fun as possible for a population that has been told that many foods are off limits. So it has tons and tons of features that you can use. We have almost 200 dietitian approved and kidney friendly recipes. There's lots of tips, frequently asked questions on there, and other nutritional information about the kidney diet. There's also a great feature here called Ask a Dietitian. So we do have a large group of volunteer registered dietitians that go through these questions and answer them. So any of your nutritional questions you have about your kidney disease, you can ask there. And we also have a new feature from 2020 that we introduced, which is videos. And so this is an example of some of the things that you'll find under the videos. So this was added in 2020, and here you'll find recorded cooking demonstrations and webinars that were provided in the past on the renal friendly diet. So be sure to frequently check back to this page. It is something that we are working to provide more of. And as I mentioned at the beginning, our webinar today is going to be recorded, and you'll be able to find it here afterwards. So another thing that we have with the Kinney Community Kitchen is our recipes. A neat feature is that you can filter through all of these recipes by selecting your meal type and your diet type. So whether you're looking for recipes that are low in phosphorus, potassium, sodium, maybe high in protein, or a combination of these, the Kinney Community Kitchen has it. So these recipes are also they also include a nutrient analysis and information regarding renal and diabetic exchanges. And here, the first recipe on that slide, you'll see our recipe that Kris is doing today. Okay, so on this slide, you'll see the link to the recipe that Kris will be preparing today. And as you can see here, the recipe is low in phosphorus and low in potassium. A few things to note is that the nutrient analysis found on the website for this website is calculated using stevia, as Chef Kris used this instead of granulated sugar. Sugar would still work in this recipe, but the carbohydrates and calorie count would of course increase. So this high protein recipe is rich in carbohydrates and should be enjoyed in moderation, especially for those with diabetes. So this is a moderation recipe. Be great for those special occasions. And with that said, I'm finally going to introduce Kris. So I'm very pleased to introduce you to our Kinney Community Kitchen volunteer, Chef Kris Gaudet. Kris was born and raised in a small coastal village on the southwest tip of Nova Scotia. He has spent over 15 years in the food and beverage industry, working in small-scale restaurants to large volume hotels and convention centers across the Atlantic provinces. After graduating from the Culinary Arts program at the Culinary Institute of Canada in Prince Edward Island, Kris went on to work in various establishments in order to earn his Red Seal designation. He is currently the sous chef of the Halifax Convention Centre, vice president of the Culinary Fredericton, Nova Scotia, board member of the Nova Scotia Tourism Human Resource Council, and food and beverage manager certified. At the age of 18, Kris was diagnosed with IgA nephropathy. Kris has spent some time on dialysis and received a kidney transplant in 2014. He is currently on dialysis again in the greater Halifax area. With his knowledge of cooking and the renal world, he is excited to work with the Kinney Foundation to help people struggling with the nutrition aspects of the disease by providing recipes, tricks, and tips that will be renal friendly. So we are very, very happy to have Kris with us. I will now show you a recording of the cooking demonstration from Kris. And so Chef Kris, you can see, is here with us live today and will be ready to answer all of your questions live right after the cooking demonstration. Another reminder before we get started is to please submit your questions through the chat box or the question and answer box, and we will get to them right after. Okay, so if you give me just a moment, I am going to stop sharing my screen with the presentation, and I will bring up the cooking demonstration. Okay.
My name is Kris Gaudet. I'm the chef. Hi everyone, my name is Kris Gaudet. I'm the chef for the Kidney Foundation of Canada. Welcome, thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to be making a breakfast dish called pain perdu, which is basically a fancy way of saying French toast. So we'll get right into it. The first thing we need is our raspberries to make our sauce. So they go in the pot. The stevia is in there as well. We heat that up just a tiny bit for a minute or two, and then we smash them to get as much juice as possible to make our sauce. Okay, so that'll be our sauce. We'll put that aside. Next, we are going to melt the butter and the oil. To make our toast. So we have some nice long French baguette. Cut them about an inch thick, okay? Fairly long too, so go on an angle and just cut that really long. It'll look really nice on the plate. So that's cut. Then we're going to take our eggs, okay? 1 egg, we'll beat that up. The milk goes in it as well. Our spices, so cinnamon, allspice goes right in there as well. And our vanilla, okay? So the vanilla goes in there as well. Mix that up. So you want this on low, okay? Just low to melt it a bit. So mix that up well. Then we take our bread. And you want to wait until the margarine or the butter foam subsides a bit, and then you know it's ready. So this is pretty much good to go there now. We'll dip our bread, okay? Get it really nice and soaked. Okay, one goes in, the next one. And the second one goes in. So as that's cooking, we are going to take our ricotta. We have our stevia in there, and then we're just going to whip that up with a bit of lemon zest, lemon juice, and that'll be kind of a sauce to go with the French toast. So we're just going to zest up some lemon in there. And I have some lemon juice and stevia in there as well already. So that's ready to go, okay? And then I have a sauce that I made earlier with some raspberries. So this sauce, it's just smashed up raspberries and some stevia. And it gets nice and thick, so you won't really need anything to it. I like it a bit tart, so, you know, I don't add as much stevia to it. And then for the other garnish, we also have our berries. So we have quartered strawberries, blueberries, raspberries, and some blackberries as well. And have basil to garnish that as well. So And this should only take about 2 minutes on each side. Again, you want it on low so the butter doesn't burn. Should be okay. And it's nice that the margarine gets a little brown. You get that nuttiness to it. It gives it a nice flavor. There's nothing wrong with that at all. So we have everything ready to go. Just going to pick some basil to put on top. We're going to check, make sure it's good to go. So this looks pretty good. We're going to turn it off. Take some paper towel and just drain it a bit, okay? There we go. Okay, so now we're going to plate. So we want our bread right there, right in the middle. Ricotta, okay, just dollops of that. Our raspberry sauce goes around, a bit on top. Fresh berries. And our basil. Right there. And a bit of lemon zest, just right on top. And that is our pain perdu.
Wow, that looks amazing. Very, very good. Thank you so much, Kris. I'm going to try to, I'm just putting up my slides here. We'll get back to that. Thank you so much, Kris. That was wonderful.
You're welcome. Thank you.
It looks very, very good. So we'll get into the Q&A now. Kris, do you want to just, I know I introduced you earlier, but just for anybody who maybe just joined us recently, before I did that, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Kris Gaudet. I'm from Clare, Nova Scotia, which is just past Digby. I've been in the cooking industry now 15 plus years, like I think 17 or so. Yeah, and I did my training in PEI, Holland College. Back in October of last year, I started dialysis again, and I thought, what better way to give back to the kidney community than to do this? Something I know. So yeah, it's been fun so far. I've been doing recipes. We've been starting videos. Hopefully, we'll be doing this every month. It should be fun.
Yes, I can't wait. It's going to be very exciting. And as we do more of these, we'll be doing different types of recipes as well. We'll be doing short recipes, long recipes, maybe featuring some different cooking skills that you can learn. So there's definitely lots to offer. Like I said earlier, we are so happy to have Kris with us. I see that we did get some questions, so that's great. If you do have some more questions, feel free to put them either in the chat box or the question and answer box, and we will get to them. So one question, Kris, I have for you, somebody submitted, is that I am conscious of the fact that I do not eat many vegetables. I think this is very common. I know myself, I do not eat enough vegetables. So Kris, can you give us some ideas of what to do when cooking vegetables?
Yeah, for sure. For me, I like to put them in soups. That's the biggest. You can kind of hide them that way. You can do puree. So any garden vegetables you have on hand, cauliflower, broccoli, leeks, onions, things like that, butternut squash, that can all be pureed together, or left whole too, just little bite-sized pieces, and it works great.
Yeah, that's some really good ideas. One of my favorite things is to make my own spaghetti sauce, and I put all of those vegetables in it, puree it. I don't mind it chunky, but some people prefer it pureed, and then you can hide so many things and you don't even realize that you're getting it. So that's a really good idea. Another thing, like you said, the soup. And one good thing about soup, and actually like anything like spaghetti sauce, is you can freeze it. So you can cook in bulk and then freeze for later on, which is always great.
Yeah, and you mentioned the sauce as well. For anyone that likes pesto, instead of using basil and pesto, just use kale. Steam some kale, just puree that and make a kale pesto out of that. Especially for the tomato sauce, because tomatoes are high in potassium.
Great. Yeah.
So kale is a great option, or spinach too.
Wow, that's a great idea. I never thought of that before.
Yeah.
What about somebody looking for ideas for some side dishes to pair with lean meats?
One good idea would be to use cornmeal. So you could make grits. It's a really simple recipe. It's about 1 cup of fine cornmeal to 4 cups of liquid. So I wouldn't use water. I'd try to get some flavor in there. So I'd use some salt-free vegetable stock. And you just boil the stock and you pour in the cornmeal really slowly while you're whisking, and cook it for probably 10 to 15 minutes. And then you have grits. I usually serve it with shrimp, like Cajun shrimp, things like that. Fish is good. But yeah.
Oh, that's great. We do have a question. Somebody's wondering about eggs. Are they okay with a renal diet? Eggs are a great low cost protein option. They do have some phosphorus, but they can definitely be enjoyed in moderation with a renal diet. Another question asked is, let me see. Oh, so does it matter? So you used raspberries. Does it matter if you use fresh raspberries or frozen?
So I use fresh. If you do use frozen, I would let them thaw for, overnight in the fridge is fine, just so that all the juice comes out. If you do use frozen berries, you'll have way too much liquid, and the sauce is just going to be too runny. So I would thaw them first, but frozen's fine. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good point. What if somebody didn't particularly like raspberries? Could you, like if you use strawberries or blueberries, would that work for a sauce?
Yeah, any berry is going to work just fine. Blackberries, cloudberries, anything like that. I would say though, for strawberries, if you do want to use those, I would add a bit of water to it just
Okay.
to help when you mash it. It'll get a bit of liquid in there, but it's totally fine.
Okay, perfect. We have a question. Somebody asking about staples that can I think they're looking for some like pantry staples for if you're on dialysis. So I'll put this question to you, Kris. Of course, before you answer it, of course, always refer to your renal healthcare professional for specifics on your renal diet. But Kris, from your experience, what are some of your favorite pantry staples?
For me, the biggest thing, it's so easy too. You can get canned chickpeas, canned any beans, so black beans, black-eyed peas, things like that. Salt-free. I keep a can of each in the cupboard if I want to do hummus, or if I want to roast some chickpeas to make like a snack, I'll do that. They get crunchy. You can toss them with paprika, things like garlic powder, and it just makes a nice snack. But yeah, that can be, I guess, high in potassium sometimes, so you have to watch that. But yeah, that's my go-to usually.
Perfect. We have lots of questions. This is really great. So I'm going to combine two different questions we have into one. So somebody's just asking, they have a kidney transplant and they're also trying to keep their sugar down. So what to do with sugars when baking. So I know, Kris, you used stevia in this recipe. So that's definitely an option. And just to tack on another question, somebody asked about artificial sweeteners and if they're safe to use. So artificial sweeteners are approved for use in Canada and can be safely used by people with kidney disease. I know there's some conflicting messages out there sometimes about artificial sweeteners, but Health Canada, they do regulate all sweeteners that are sold in Canada. Another kind of question that relates to this, Kris, is about using sugar in a recipe to substitute for stevia. So how do you go about this? Is it 1-to-1?
Yeah, stevia is the thing that is extremely sweet. So it's an 8-to-1 ratio, actually. So say you have, the recipe calls for 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar. You actually have to use 1/8 of a teaspoon of stevia.
Okay.
It really depends. Like, you can Google all this stuff, but it depends on the sugar. Most sugars are the same, right? 1 teaspoon of granulated to 1 teaspoon of brown sugar is fine. But stevia is that thing that is extremely sweet. So yeah, have to watch that for sure.
And I know there's lots of different kinds of artificial sweeteners you can use out there. So is it safe to say that you would recommend reading the package? Does it differ between the artificial sweeteners with
Yeah, I think so. I think stevia is the closest in taste. You wouldn't really notice the difference so much, but other things, sweet and low and things like that, there's definitely a taste. So it's definitely preference and whatever your dietitian recommends.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's good to know. Good to know that it's a 1-to-8 ratio with stevia. You don't want to put it 1-to-1.
Yeah, don't be heavy-handed on that.
Yeah, exactly. It might be too sweet. We've gotten a couple of questions about the recipe and where to find that. I know, Rosanna, you put the link in the chat box. I'll just get you to put that in again. Also, we will be providing you with the PowerPoint slides used today. You'll get a follow-up email with those. So all links in those, all links in the PowerPoint slides today you will get. Okay, another question here, Kris, is that so you used a French baguette for this recipe. Would it be fine to just use regular bread, like white bread or whole grain bread?
So I would suggest for that to use a whole bread, not anything sliced or soft. I would go for, if you don't want to use baguette, you can use ciabatta or like anything like that. Ciabatta, focaccia, brioche is fine. And cut it fairly thick just so that it won't get soggy as you're dipping it in the egg mixture. But yeah, other than that, it's fine. As long as you don't use, Ben's white bread, you should be okay.
Okay, that's a good point. I've had that issue myself before making things like French toast, is the bread gets quite soggy. So that's a good point. I'll use that tip. And what if you don't have ricotta, is there a way that you can make it work with yogurt, this recipe?
Yeah, I would suggest, I actually have a tub at home. I keep coconut yogurt here. It's really good. It's dairy free. And that would work just as good. You can zest a bit of lemon in there and a bit of juice, and it's great. And adds extra flavor, coconut flavor, if you like that.
Perfect. That
Yeah.
sounds very tasty. What about what if you don't like basil? Is there something else that you could use to replace that?
Yeah, if you like sweet, I would pick mint. So there's so many different types of mints out there you can find. There's like actually chocolate mint, lemon mint, things like that, orange mint. It's endless. So yeah, you can just use anything like that. Just chop it up and add it like you would for the basil.
Oh, wow. Okay, so another similar question. What about if you don't have allspice? Could you use something like nutmeg?
Yeah. So if you don't like cloves, you don't have to put cloves. If you don't like cinnamon, sprinkle a bit more of nutmeg or whatever. One thing that I suggest too is keep a few packages of all like pre-mixed spices. So whether it be like pumpkin pie spice or apple pie spice, all those are ready to go. So you don't have to go buy, all these different ingredients. They're already in there. So I usually keep apple pie spice, pumpkin pie spice on hand.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
What about, we saw that you used fresh basil in the video. Where would you find this in the grocery store?
Usually that would be kept around the tomatoes, cucumbers. You shouldn't refrigerate basil. So if you do, it'll oxidize. So basically it'll turn brown, then you won't be able to use it. It'll turn brown really quick. So just keep it on your counter, away from the sun, moisture, things like that. And it'll last for a while.
Okay, so is that similar to other fresh herbs? Would you store other fresh herbs like that?
So you can put them in a bit of water in a glass and it'll be completely fine. Most don't like to be refrigerated too cold because they'll wilt. So if you can find space that isn't right in direct sunlight, put it in a glass with a bit of water, it'll last for a week or so.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
We have a question. So I think this comes from when we were talking about stevia and other sugars. What's your experience, Kris, with using coconut sugar? Or is that something that you ever use in your cooking?
Yeah, I've used it before. I use it a lot for everything, whether it's like coffee or tea or baking. It really gives a nice different depth of sweetness. So instead of your regular just plain sugar sweetness, it has that coconut nice like nutty flavor. It's really good. I would suggest it.
Awesome. A few more questions that we have here. What about, in this recipe, sorry, Kris, did you use oil in this recipe?
I did.
Okay.
So I use margarine for the main component, but you would want to add a bit of oil into it, whether it be canola, vegetable, anything like that, even corn oil. They have a higher smoking point, so it won't burn the margarine. So that's why you want to always add, whenever you're cooking with butter, margarine, things like that, add a touch of oil, and it'll stop from burning so quickly. And obviously you don't want burnt French toast. So yeah.
Well, I just learned something new. That's awesome. So what about olive oil?
Olive oil is good. I would not suggest using extra virgin olive oil.
Okay.
Again, that's delicate. I would use that for dressing salads, or if you have a platter of grilled vegetables on the table, you can just drizzle that over, and with a splash of orange juice or things like that. But I wouldn't cook with that.
Okay, and is that because of the smoke point for
That
olive oil?
Yeah, that's right. It's like extra virgin olive oil is the first cold press of the olive. So again, yeah, it just has that low smoking point, and it'll start smoking in no time in the pan.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just another question related to stevia or other sweeteners. What about using dates instead to sweeten?
Yeah. If you do use dates, I would add a bit of water to it, puree it really well. Unless you do just like chunks of dates in it, that's completely fine too. You can definitely, recipes usually won't make a big difference if you don't add sugar to it, unless you do what's called the creaming method. So that's basically just butter, softened butter, and sugar. So usually cakes, things like that, we'll use that method. That should be used, like sugar should be used. So whether it's sugar, coconut sugar, brown sugar, you can't really use dates for that. But applications like this, you could use dates.
Okay, perfect. What about any other like fruits to sweeten?
Honestly, dates is probably one of the only ones that's full of sugar already, right? It just comes like it's done so well. And once you add liquid to it, whether it's like even a touch of red wine into it, or sherry or port's really nice. Add a touch of that, bring it up to the boil, and then just puree it with the port or sherry, and it's great. It's really nice, which would go really well with French toast as well. So
yes, it would be. It would. I can't wait to try this recipe. We do have a question just about our Kitty Community Kitchen website, and just about the recipes. Are they, or what stage of kidney disease are the recipes on your site recommended for? So the recipes on Kitty Community Kitchen can be used by individuals at all stages of the kidney disease. Like I showed you before the video, you can filter through the recipes to account for different types of diets. So low sodium, low phosphorus, low potassium, high protein. And since all renal diets are so individualized, though, you do always want to check with your healthcare professional to determine what nutrients you want to keep in mind, and then of course filter them accordingly. And with that, I think we answered all of the questions. So before we end today's webinar, I do want to launch one more poll, and I will do that now. Okay, so you should be able to see this poll on your screen now. And we're just asking for future webinars or future videos on our Kitty Community Kitchen website. What recipes or cooking videos would you like to see in the future? So here you can choose more than one answer. So you can click all that apply. So some options are recipes using in-season products. So this would be things like in-season vegetables. Preparing plant-based foods. That's a really popular topic right now. How to make comfort foods renal friendly. meals focusing on vegetables, videos on cooking skills, desserts, those are my favorite, and recipes using different types of meats. I see almost everybody answered. I'll just wait a couple more seconds here. All right, let's see the results. So I'll share these with you. Oh, wow. Kris, it looks like we're gonna have a lot to do.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it looks like people want to see everything. So that's great. We're very happy to see that. And we really do hope to be able to bring you all of this information. So that is really great. So again, before we end, I just want to mention our peer support program. This is our upcoming virtual peer support group dates. These are open to all kidney patients, family members, caregivers, donors, and recipients. Whether you are in Atlantic Canada or not, these are open to everybody in Canada. Peer support groups are a great opportunity to meet and chat with others who have been through similar experiences. You're welcome to share your stories and experiences, or simply sit back and listen to what others have to say. There's never pressure to speak up, and all the information in these groups are completely confidential. So if this is something that interests you, if you'd like to know more about these groups or our peer support program, or if you'd like to join one, definitely reach out, and you can contact me at this information here, this contact information. So again, thank you so much, Kris. This was excellent. I'm very excited to work further with you and partner further with you. For those of you who may not know, Kris contributes so much to the Kidney Community Kitchen, and we are very, very grateful to have him with us. So with that said, you will receive a follow-up email in the next little bit, in the next few days or early next week. We'll have a link to the recording of this webinar to view. We'll have a copy of the PowerPoint slides with all of the links we talked about today, and a little survey, anonymous survey, if you have time to fill out. The link to the recipe is on this slide as well. And so again, with that said, thank you so much, Kris. Very happy to have you. Do you have any last minute words?
Just thank you so much. And hopefully we'll be doing this again very soon, and that everyone can tune in.
Definitely. All right. Thank you, Kris. Everybody right now in Atlantic, it's evening. So have a great evening if you're in Atlantic. And thank you so much for joining us today. Bye, everyone.